Hi everyone. I hope I'm audible and visible to all of you.
Yes, Avilash, you are.
Okay, great. So today's agenda is like I'm going to teach you the basics of analytics as a part of EALP program. So it's not only for students who wants to take specialization in business analytics, but it's for them as well who wants to take as an elective as a subject who are genuinely interested in business analytics because business analytics works in not only for one domain or I'll say per se for analytics, but it works in HR, in your marketing, in your finance, in every domain, in every industry. Currently, we are using business analytics to drive insights from the data. So let's begin with the PPT. Just give me a second. Okay, is it visible, right?
Yes, Avilash, it is visible. Also, in the meantime, guys, please turn on your cameras and also rename yourself as PrepBee, then your name, or else I have to remove you guys. जो लोग नहीं rename कर रहे. So please do that. Also, we will be taking the attendance at 10:25, so you guys can mark at that time. Please continue, Avilash.
Okay, great. So first thing comes into mind is like why analytics? Like why now? The revolution begins long before they are declared, as in the case with business analytics. So popular notion of big data analytics seems to indicate a watershed moment of change and innovation because now there is a huge technological disruption. If you see OpenAI, if you see virtual gaming and everything. So technology is booming, and still we don't know how to utilize that properly. So there is a huge applications we have seen of analytics in finance and supply chain and marketing that take advantage of huge volume of data. So we are using it from many years, but not properly. Okay, there's someone raise hand. We'll take the doubts in the end of the session. If you have any doubts, just collate it or write it in the chat box. Okay. So what will be the next part if we take analytics or if we are doing analytics? So the application, what is the basic applications of analytics is to solve the business problems as an because analytics is currently in the early stage of development, right? And it dissemination. So opportunities of employing data assets to enhance revenue, reduce cost, and manage risk abound, and these applications will continue to grow. So, therefore, we required business analytics. For example, let's say it has been long recognized that cross-selling or upselling to current customers is more profitable than finding and creating new customers, right? So, their financial institutions, for one, are increasingly using data mining to uncover trends. So, they're tapping on the trends like what stocks or what are the prices has been changing in which particular stock, which stock to choose and how to reduce that risk. So they're using predictive analytics, they're using prescriptive analytics, and because of that they are able to drive good strategies per se, not only on finance but in every domain. So the special sections on like about what business analytics actually do, what are the applications of business analytics. So there, it is currently used in every industry, whether it's your healthcare, whether it's your financial, fintech industries, or if your IT industry, everywhere. So let's move ahead. So we have seen huge technological disruptions in the recent years. So this is a small just like how this technology changes with time. Also with years, so there is a certain what you call with the expectations with the technology and at what time it will we are able to utilize it properly. So if you see in 2011, we have seen huge technology disruption in mesh network sensors. We have seen cloud web platforms. We have used virtual desktops, we have seen virtual worlds. So at that time it was there are some five or four parameters like the technological trigger when the technology has initiated, like this is came to someone's mind and they have started like okay, we have to develop something, like there is a need or we are solving something like some problem. So it started with like in 2011 there is 3D bioprinting, right? So it started in 2011. So there is a technological trigger that they start this technology, but by what time we are able to fully utilize it? So if you see, there is a triangle, yellow color triangle, which shows that more than 10 years. So after 10 years, we'll be able to utilize this fully, and also when it reaches the plateau of productivity, right? Similarly, throughout the years in 2012 and in 2013 and 2014, we have seen millions of technologies which are coming continuously. And still, like, if you see, if you talk about ChatGPT, if you talk about OpenAI and AIs, so we know how to use AI. We are currently using it, right? In every domain, like in our assignments and every industries, we are currently using OpenAI, but still we don't know how to utilize it properly till now. So we are just on the surface level. There is a huge deep learning involved in OpenAI, which we can use. Like, if you have seen, like, advanced Excel is there. So with Excel you can use AI. It's in the market, right? But still we are not able to fully utilize it. Similarly, it hasn't reached the plateau of productivity. So in 2024, there are other technologies that have boomed, like the generative AI, as I mentioned, it has reached the peak of inflated expectations, somewhere near the expectation. We are learning it. So technology is something which keep on innovating, which keep on changing every day. It's not like we have developed one technology and now it will remain throughout the same. So we keep on improving it, and we need to learn. So in technology, we should keep on increasing our skills on that particular one. So if you've seen GitOps are there. So GitHub, you can change the codings, and now there are apps which there are websites per se which we can develop an app and with deployment. So we no there's no further requirement of software engineers per se, because coding is easy for us. Right, we don't require to build a website. Earlier, it's an engineer work. Right now, a person who don't have a BTech background can build a website with this. Okay, someone is using Sketchpin. Thank you. So if what can I use? Yeah, so now a person who has not an engineer background can still make a website. So this is the technology that's are booming right now. Okay, that's where business analytics came into picture, and now. Okay. So for today's in today's session, what are the basic learning targets that we have is, first we'll introduce you to what business analytics is, then what are the key concepts of business analytics, and then what are the basic process of business analytics that we are currently using, or that's the industry, like in industry practices, how we are applying to it. Moving ahead. So first question is, what is business analytics, right? So in simple layman language, it is what should we do based on what the data says, right? So if you got some data, like you have database centers, you have data centers in every organization. So we brought out, like let's say we have customer reviews data of an e-commerce platform. So we have a huge number, like there are lots of customers. We have like what they're buy purchasing every day, what is the recency, what is the frequency of buying of these customers. What will we do with this data? How will we create marketing strategies using this data? That's fall into business analytics. So this is the basic definition of business analytics. That is, it is the discipline of collecting, organizing, analyzing, and interpreting business data to generate actionable insights that drive better decision making and improve business outcomes. So it involves transforming raw data into meaningful information to solve business problems. So what happened earlier, like we have some data, so we don't know how to bring insight out of it. Or let's say if some, like there will be a board meeting, we have to make some business strategies. We don't how we'll back it up with something like some facts or some data out of. So within business analytics, you draw insights out of this or out of the data that you have, and you make strategies which, like, let's say take some financial industries only. So I want to invest some money in some particular stocks. Like, how will I decide which stock will give a rise to my, like, there will be an increment or it, or there will be a decrement in the price of that particular stock. In that also we use analytics. We check the past trends, we forecast the prices, we do predictive analytics, and on the basis of that we buy certain stock, right? That's where we make a decision out of the data that we have. So this is what business analytics is. On organization base, it happens on a large scale. So it involves interpreting that data specifically to make informed business decisions, improve strategies, and solve organizational problems. So these are the like various, like in HR you use business analytics, in marketing we use business analytics, in operations and finance and consulting as well. So in HR, how will you, what is the use of business analytics? So analytics, what we do in HR, like let's say there is an attrition rate of 10%. So how will I decide like next year how many employees I need to I need to hire? What will be the what will be the employer life cycle will look like? How many people will what is the turnover rate? How many people will get there will be what will be the our attrition rate next year? How many people we need to hire? So on the basis of past trend, like as I mentioned, there will be an attrition rate of 10%. So on the basis of our history or the historical data, we we assume certain things like in next year also, let's assume if there will be a 10% attrition, so this many employees I need to hire. This will happen on the basis of predictive analytics, and we forecast and we make business strategies. Similarly, in marketing, what technique or what sort of ad we should generate, what recommendation we should send to the customers, like if they're purchasing if they're purchasing a bread, how will we send on the basis of algorithm, how will we send the recommendation of butter to that customer? So this all happens in marketing. In operations supply chain, we do inventory management, we reduce the lead time, and that also there also we use business analytics. Similarly in finance for the stock prices, and in consulting to build strategies. So is business analytics and data analytics are same? So is it true? No. अरे भाई तो फिर कहना क्या चाह रहे हो? So let's see how different they are actually. So data analytics is basically analyzing raw data to uncover patterns and trends, while in business analytics you apply the data insights to optimize business strategies. So what is the scope of this data analytics and business analytics? So we use various domains like healthcare, sports, and finance in data analytics specifically, but in business analytics, we focus more on business decision making. In data analytics, we draw in we just work on that data. In business analytics, on the basis of the insight that we get out of the data, we make strategies, we make decisions over it. So what are the techniques that we use? In data analytics, we use machine learning, statistical analysis, and data mining. What in business analytics, we use predictive modeling, we use financial forecasting. So we train our data, we build models out of so that on the basis of that we can make fruitful decision. Also there will be some strategies which are backed by our data insights. What is the goal of this data analytics and business analytics? So in data analytics we extract meaningful insights from data for various applications, while in business analytics we basically improve profitability, efficiency, and market positioning. So in decision making, so what data analytics will do? It helps you understand data, but does it focus on business strategy? So basically, you'll do the data analytics, you do data pre-processing, we do everything. We do visualization of data, but did you make a strategy out of it? No. In data analytics, you don't make any decisions. But in business analytics, it's more toward like you'll make decisions which will impact the overall organization goals. It will impact the operations. It will impact what will be having in the future. What are the production, like how much production of units will be there in the future? How many employees we're going to hire? So it will impact the whole organization. So now come to big data. So you have heard of the term like what is big data? So there are two examples that I've taken. So first is of Netflix. You have seen like we have seen like if I'm watching some certain genre movie or certain genre web series, it keep on recommending me similar like on the basis of your recommendation. So how do they do it? And the accuracy of prediction, like how it because these predictions will impact our subscription. If we like something and if we feel that this series will be on Netflix, so there are high chances that I'll purchase the subscription, right? So similarly, earlier what happened when we do Google search? So a Google search for let's say for computer science give this many results in 0.26 seconds from a total of 47 billion sites, right? So how this search is happen, how it came, like what algorithm works behind this? This all we understood. Like, but this many data, how will we handle it? Why we call it big data? And is there a threshold to it? So why how we can say that this certain data or after this threshold we can say that this is a big data? So there is nothing like that. So what is big data? So there is no universally accepted definition of big data, but there are certain parameters on which we say that this data is a big data. So currently we are using 5 V's framework. So in 5 V's of big data, we call it the scale of data. Like what is the volume? Like if you see, let's say in healthcare industry only. So there are millions of patients there. They have some medical history. So to collate all this data, there will be a huge volume, right? That's where we call it a big data. So there is not a certain, I'll say a threshold to it. Like if it reaches to 1 TB, then we'll call it big data. No, if you have the volume is so high, like there will be 1 million patients in one hospital. So there you call it a big data. But similarly, if it's a less, it's an MSME or a medium enterprise, there the data will be less, or it will fall under like it will be under like 50,000 patients will be there. So there we don't call it a big data. There it is a data only. Similarly, we analyze what is the velocity, the speed at which the data are generated. So every day we make some decision, every day we do some research, every day we fill some survey, every day we have some liking. So every day we are generating some certain sort of data. So the velocity at which the speed at which the data is getting generated, there we call it a big data. So there is a very huge uncertainty of data. So this refers to the discrepancies found in date. Let's say 1 in 3 business leader don't trust the information they use to make decisions, right? So there is this veracity function came into place. Similarly, what is the value of data? So you have heard of dark web, you have heard of deep learning. So we what the searches we do is the surface level. Then there is deep learning, and then there is this dark web. So there is a value associated to every information. Every sort of data has some value. If you sold it to some place, because some organization has, like if you seen Gartner, so if you see Frost and Sullivan, so these are market research firms. So the data that they collect out of survey, they sold it to certain people, or they like there are certain sort of data they can make live. If you see Statista, you can easily see the graphs is there, how the CAGR value of certain industry is there. But there are certain reports which are specifically or let's say with specific to certain researches. They are not public, they are private. There you need to have that subscription. So similarly, there happen like the value of the data is associated with it. Similarly, the variety. So the diversity in types and structure of data. So there will be a YouTube video. So YouTube video is a video sort of data. When it comes to text format, there will be font format data. There will be picture format of data. So the diversity defines whether it is a data or a big data. Then there is like the analysis of streaming of data. It falls under the what you call the volume and the speed. Like at which speed the data is generating. Like if you make every day you are creating a new YouTube video, every day the reels are generated. Everything falls under the data category. But if it's increased that threshold, if it's increasing at a very high speed, then we call it a big data. So there is a different types of analytics involved. First is descriptive, second is diagnostic, then predictive and prescriptive analysis. So these are the basic layman terms which we use to describe these types of analytics. So what is descriptive analysis? Basically, it explained what had happened. What is diagnostic analysis? It explained why it had happened. Similarly, for predictive, it's like it forecasts what might have happened, and in prescriptive, it recommends an action based on the forecast. So let's take an example. If you have gone to any doctor for, let's say, fever or some cold, cough, what will you give? You give that doctor your description, like these are the symptoms that I'm facing currently. On the basis of your query, the doctor will diagnose your issue, and he'll declare that you have a fever. What he'll predict? This might have happened because the past day or yesterday or the last night you have ate something, or you had something because of which you had felt this sickness. On the basis of that, he'll prescribe you some medicine. Similarly, in analytics, first we describe what had happened. We explain, like let's say there is some business problem. If you'll say the revenue are decreasing, so how, like what had happened is like the revenue is decreasing. How will you diagnose it? Like why it had happened? There will be certain marketing issue, there will be issue with the operations team. So you'll then diagnose it. You diagnose the to the root problem, what root cause problem of that particular issue. Then you predict, like forecast, you'll predict like what might have happened because of which this issue has arisen. Similarly, then you prescribe a solution towards it. Moving ahead, so in detail, descriptive analytics, the mighty size of big data is beyond human comprehension, and the first stage hence involves crunching the data into understandable chunks. So, if you have seen, if you'll receive any data, if you'll do any survey, you'll receive the data in an unstructured form. So, first you have to make it in a structured form. So, there will be categorical form of data, there will be factorial form of data. Factor, as in, you will say one, two, three, and in categorical it is like gender, male and female. So how will, because you can work on similar sort of data, right? So first you will structure it or you make it into understandable chunks. Then the purpose of this analytics type is just to summarize the findings and understand what is going on. So you'll describe what sort of data you have arrived, how you're structuring it, how what had happened actually. So among some frequently used terms, what people call as advanced analytics or business intelligence is basically uses of descriptive statistics. What are the statistics involved in descriptive is arithmetic operations like mean, median, max, percentage on existing data and data queries, standard reports, descriptive statistics, data visualization, cluster analysis. So these tools used in this phase, because in descriptive analysis we use basic tool because we are just describing our data. What sort of tools that we use is MS Excel, MATLAB, SPSS, and Stata. So these are the some examples of tools that we use in defining what has happened. So in descriptive analytics. Moving ahead, there is diagnostic analytics. What is diagnostic analytics is it is characterized by techniques such as drill down. So you'll finding the root cause. So you'll do a follow-up questions to the people like what had happened, whether the issue is in with certain team. So there are high chances you'll get misunderstood, you'll get misunderstanding. So you'll go to the root cause problems to solve that particular issue. Similarly, so in this you'll do data discovery, you'll do data mining and correlations, whether your independent variable is correlated to your dependent variable, whether the factor that you have mentioned is actually the reason for this. So we generally call that smoking causes lung cancer. So your smoking so lung cancer is your dependent variable. Smoking is the factor that is causing your lung cancer. So whether you here you'll diagnose whether this is the reason for it or not. So, diagnostic analytics take a deeper look at data to understand the root cause of the events. So, it is helpful in determining what factors an event contributed to the outcomes. So, it mostly uses probabilities and likelihoods and the distribution of outcomes for the analysis. So, in a time series data of sales and let's say finance, diagnostic analytics would help you understand why the sales have decreased or increased for a specific year or so. So there are few techniques that uses diagnostic analytics that are attribute importance, principal component analysis, your PCA, your sensitivity analysis, conjoint analysis, and there are cluster analysis which are included in diagnostic only. So there are training algorithm for like classification and regression techniques, that linear regression, logistic regression, they all fall into diagnostic analytics. So in diagnostic, it's basically the simplest form of regression, that is linear one. So your logistic falls under your predictive and prescriptive. One more thing, when we are going ahead with this type of analytics, there is no certain formula, or I'll say a process which you have to follow, that you have to go by. So first, you will do descriptive, then only you can do diagnostic. No, you can directly, if you know the problem, let's say you know what is the root cause, so you don't need to do the diagnostic analytics, right? You can directly jump on predictive analytics. So these four are just types. There is no certain criteria that you have to go one by one. You can choose based on the organization issue, based on the problem. If you understand everything in that organization, if you know the root cause, you don't need to do certain analytics. You can directly go to the prescriptive as well. You don't need to do predictive analytics if you know the reasons, if you know how what can happen. So what is predictive moving like coming to the topic, what is predictive analytics? So the analytics is found in sentiment analysis, where all the opinion posted on social media are collected and analyzed like existing text data to predict the person's sentiment on a particular subject as in positive, negative, or neutral. So let's take an example. I got a customer review data of certain e-commerce, let's say Amazon only. I got a review data of customers. I categorize, if I'll do sentiment analysis on it, what I'll do, we'll categorize into whether I got a positive response of this certain product, whether I got a negative response of the certain product, whether I get a neutral response. So based on that, I'll categorize certain products and I'll increase the visibility of that product if it has a positive response. If it has a negative response, I'll decrease the visibility or I'll not fall into the recommendation technique. So we don't recommend that product. This what happened like in actually is happening in e-commerce platform. Huge users feel like how like people are recommending. There is some certain like I've just chose this genre or might that Google have heard. No, this happens actually. The engineers put that algorithm so that it will recommend you on the. So it's all customized. So predictive model builds on the preliminary descriptive analytics stage to derive the possibility of the outcome. Predictive analytics include like building and validation of models that provide accurate predictions. So there are high chances that certain times what happen, you don't know, like the data is very uncertain, right? You can't expect it to be structured from when you are receiving it, right? So what happened? It doesn't work on possibilities. Either it will be yes or either it will be no. So the accuracy of the predictions is very must. In predictive analytics, you can do analytics on the basis of data, but there are certain, what do you call that? Like if you know about, there is a Great Depression in 2008 and 2009. So due to that, stock prices got reduces. So how there is a negative news, right? So how will you decide that news? Because news is a certain or what you call, it's not a quantity. You can't quantify negative news. But in predictive analytics, you can quantify your negative news as well to predict the prices of stock. This what we do in model, like in predictive analytics, we do uh, model training, and based on that, we predict whether either it's a qualitative data or either it's even a negative news. We can quantify it in certain terms, or we quantify in certain sort of data, and we can train on that as well. So now technology has reached a certain level where you need to keep on learning things, otherwise you're left behind. These are the skills that you should learn throughout. So in tech industry, or I'll say in IT industries, it's a continuous learning process. So, predictive analytics, it relies on machine learning algorithms like random forest, SVM. There are certain models that are already there. So, this is fall under machine learning, AI/ML you have heard of. So, and statistics for learning and testing the data. So, there are certain statistical data also involved into, and certain statistic formulas and functions that are there involved in predictive analytics. Let's say your logistic regression is there, as you mentioned, random forest is there. It's a model which we built using the algorithm and coding. Then there is prescriptive analytics. So what is prescriptive analytics? It suggests all favorable outcomes according to a specified course of action, and also suggests various course of actions to get to a particular outcome. So it uses a strong feedback system that constantly runs and update the relationship between the action and the outcome. So there are the four techniques in analytics. May seem like, as I mentioned, it is feels like you have to follow them in a process. No, you can, it's not a sequentially, you can optimize, you can use it according to your need. So in most scenarios, there are chances that they can directly jump to prescriptive analytics, as most of the companies are aware of are already implementing descriptive analytics. But if one had identified the key area that needs to be optimized or worked upon, let's say you know that there is a issue with the operation team. So you don't need to do that. You can directly go to the prescriptive analytics. So, what is this business analytics process? So, you have recently learned about the descriptive, predictive, and prescriptive. So, this is the basic business analytic process that has been followed in the industry. First is business computer cloud storage. So, there is some storage which we call database and data centers. You have heard. So, then there is business database for data set and business reports. So, I've called it lots of data. So, this happens in the collection of data, or we do pre-processing here, because we receive the data in a raw form, then we make it in a like we structure the data, and then we went ahead with the analytics. So when you're performing analytics, you need to clean the data, you need to pre-process it, you need to make it in, like you need to change it into a structured form. Then your descriptive analytics, like what had happened. So find possible business related opportunities. Then predictive analytics, we do predictive analytics on the data that we have received. Then like you predict opportunities in which the firm can take advantage. In prescriptive, you will do what, how shall it be handled, or how will you handle the issue, how will you handle the insight that you have made, what, how do you do this, how you implement the strategy. So basically the deployment part. So you allocate resources to take advantage of the predictive opportunities, and then the outcome of the entire business analytics analysis, and you measurable increase, you will keep on evaluating whether what you have, the decision that you are taking, is it correct or right for the business. So this is, I'll say the theoretical. That was the application part on the basis of data analytics. But this is the theoretical aspect of the business analytic process. First, you identify the problem or the opportunity for value creation. Like what is the problem that you are facing. Second, you identify the source of data, whether it's a primary source of data, it's secondary source of data, or it's a third party. So there is a third party source of data as well. Primary, which you will directly go and collect. Secondary, you will fetch it from certain organizations like the CART and the market research organizations that are there. Third, you'll do pre-processing of the data for issues such as missing and incorrect data. So there are certain errors, there are blank spaces when you receive a, let's say, as a MS Excel file or some CSV file, there is some blank spaces, there will be errors. So you pre-process it. Then you divide the data sets into subset training and validation. So you don't train the whole data first. So there is a rule we call it's 80-20 principle, Pareto, but in here we use 80% of data to the testing part and 20% to the training part, so that if the analysis that we do is got wrong, we don't need to do something with the 80% of data. So there are certain models that we use that can be used on certain sort of data only. So we follow that model, we use 4 or 5 model, and then we choose which will be best fit for this particular sort of data. Then you build analytical models, as I explained, and you identify the best model using model performance and validation data. And then you implement the solution, like you draw insights out of the data and you implement the decisions and you develop the product. So here it's a product, the sort of development, but in business organization, you create strategies, whether it's in marketing, whether you're HR, whether it's operations, whether you're consulting. So this is all. This is just the basics of what business analytics actually is. So thank you for listening. If you have any sort of queries or doubts, you can ask me now. Any queries? Anything you want to understand? Okay, if you can ping me also. You can even ask Apoorv as well. So if you are interested in business analytics, or if you feel, because now it's used in everywhere, every industry, every part, in every domain you can use it, and it's okay. So SQL is a language, right? It's a query language. You'll type queries on it. So SQL is what you call the base of everything. We train models in R. We can train models in Python. But when I don't know about MongoDB that you have mentioned, but what I heard is, because if you receive directly the CSV file, you receive the data that directly Excel, MS Excel file. So there you can use it in Python and in R as well. But when it comes to data centers, let's say you have a database. From there, if you need to fetch the file, then you have to use SQL, because SQL is base of all the languages. So in organization, they generally train their data using SQL rather than instead of using R and Python. So visualizing, yeah. So data visualization part of business analytics only. So let's say you want to, like, you have to create a dashboard. You should know how to create a dashboard and what is the KPIs, like the key performance indicators, on which you are making that dashboard. Because visualizations skills is mandatory, because you can't do everything using Excel. You can't do everything using R and Python. So you, even if you do R Markdown, or even if you develop that script part, you need to make a dashboard, and for that you need to learn Power. So Power BI is generally like right now they are using, but in industry it's used in use. But Tableau is like basic form. So if you feel like you're not good at Power BI is just like there are certain features that are there in Power BI which are not there in Tableau. So Tableau is a basic tool which you can use. SPSS is there. So there are lots of tools, but I'll say yeah, Power BI is necessary. Any other question? So first, I believe for Power BI, like for data, so there are data manipulation, there is data preprocessing, then that comes the data visualization. Data visualization is mostly the end part from which you will draw that, like you have already drawn the insights out of it. Now you have to make a decision. So firstly, I will say you start with the business analytics process. The very first process, data, how you structure your data. If you receive the data, like you receive the raw unstructured data, you have to or you transform it into a structure form, and you do the pre-processing, you eliminate the errors, then you train the model. So you start with step by step. First, start with like how will you data pre-process. So you learn about data analytics, then shift to business analytics, because if you learn data analytics, right, so you can apply it in any domain. Like you can apply it in HR, you can apply it in marketing. So there, anyway, if you are using it in marketing, there will be like customer review data only. If you're applying in it HR, there will be employee data only. So you understand the data analytics, do the data visualization, learn Power BI, learn Tableau tools, learn certain statistics. So statistics is the base of all these analytics forms. If you know when you are applying the linear regression, where you're applying the logistic regression, which model you need to do. So this all first start with the basic, like the statistics tool, learn about them, then go ahead with the modeling tools. Any questions? Or you can ping me afterwards. I can explain it to you. Okay, we can wrap up this meet, I guess. Thank you. Thank you for joining.